Is America done with a Roseanne-less Roseanne show? The numbers for the second week of The Conners are in, and they are not particularly promising. Hey everyone, this is Kevin T. Rodriguez, film critic of iCritic.net and shareholder in the Walt Disney Company. So this actually kind of affects me. But the numbers are in for the second episode of The Conners. Now, before we get into the news article itself, I want to say thank you to everyone who watched my fully edited review of The Conners. It was kind of a little experiment of mine. People said you should be getting into movie reviews, and they take so much time, but the reception to that was so positive for the most part that it has given me the confidence to continue to make videos like that. So thank you very much. But I still want to do a little vlog news style things like this once in a while. And I think this would be a nice little follow-up. Granted, we're not going to be doing this every single week for The Conners. At this point, I will only do one more news item if The Conners gets renewed or canceled. And at the end of the season, I will do a full second review to find out if long-term The Conners were able to be a decent show without Roseanne. My opinion of the second episode, for what it's worth, is that it is definitely different. It is different enough that I am a little more concerned than I was last week. While I did appreciate how they handled the death of Roseanne, and I made that very clear, I also meant what I said. You're dealing with a very emotional subject. How is the cast going to go on without Roseanne? In this episode, the second episode, I think there were a few more issues. I mean, it was still a little funny, but it's definitely a lesser episode, so we might have a problem. And the ratings might have a problem, because according to Entertainment Weekly, as expected, the second week of ABC's Roseanne spinoff dipped in the ratings. The big question last week was, by how much? Tuesday nights, The Conners had a 7.9 million viewers and a 1.7 rating among adults 18 to 49, down 26% in the demo from last week's premiere. That's a bit more than your typical second week drop-off for a new series, but also far from the plummet that some had predicted. One big factor was that Fox had Game 1 of the World Series on last night, and that kind of makes sense because The Conners and Roseanne are gearing towards blue-collar people. Blue-collar audiences are going to watch the game. They just are. I'm not going to watch sports, and of course, I streamed The Conners episode 2 on Hulu, but I could see how that would be at least somewhat of a factor. But it's debatable how much of The Conners drop should be attributed to the sports competition. CBS's entire lineup was actually unchanged in the ratings compared to last week, and NBC shows were barely impacted, with The Voice and This Is Us only dropping 1/10 of a point each, and New Amsterdam at 10 p.m. actually improving. The CW's lineup likewise improved. ABC's lineup, however, softened across the board after The Conners dipped at 8 p.m. Still, The Conners was the second highest rated entertainment series Tuesday night, behind only This Is Us and A Win is a Win. Speaking of which, here's our rundown of the fall's 10 biggest TV winners and losers. So anyway, that's pretty much where The Conners end. So now the question remains, there is that big question. How much is the dip attributed to the Roseanne fans or even just the general public who just wanted to see what would happen to Roseanne Connor? And that's probably a lot of people. But I still think that the numbers that they're getting are still fairly good. Again, it was the second highest rated show of the hour, so a win is a win. But it is also clear that it is losing a lot of viewers, and it is far, far down from what Roseanne was. Now, I'm going to make an early prediction. It could change, of course, but I think it's going to get renewed. I think it's a big enough hit that ABC will renew it again. Also, another thing to keep in mind is if they cancel it after one season, if the head of ABC, Channing Dunham, does that, is it Dunning, Dunham? I forgot. I'm sorry. Then that would be a roundabout way of admitting that she was wrong. That without Roseanne, the show was not successful. They will probably renew it for a second season just to prove that it's successful enough to get a second season. And again, these are not terrible numbers. They are definitely smaller compared to the Roseanne audience. And who knows if Roseanne would have gotten to this point. But again, a win is a win. So I don't see the Conners going away after one season. After 2 seasons, maybe. This second season will be like the true test to see if it's still commercially viable. One thing that is obvious, though, is if the numbers continue to drop, even if they stay steady, someone might still have to answer because they were looking at last week's numbers for all of this season, and now that's dropped significantly. It's pretty clear Roseanne still has her fans. And reading the comments of that video that I made, Roseanne very clearly has a lot of supporters, and a lot of people are very unhappy. And all those people who said that they would not watch the show, and that's their prerogative, not to watch the Conners if they don't want to. If you multiply that by millions of people, that could be a very big dent in the numbers. So there's that. But anyway, as always, I want to know what you think about this. So tell me by commenting below, liking the video, subscribing if you haven't. And if you like my videos, consider becoming a Patreon member. It's totally optional, of course, but even as little as $1 a month goes a long way to helping the channel run smoothly. And as always, flame responsibly. Have a good one.